Hey guys, so this was a very interesting episode of One Piece this week. So I guess one of the major things to say with this episode is that it gave us one reunion after another. But on top of that, one thing I appreciate here that I didn't fully when reading this in the manga is how each pretty much reunion that we got in this episode and each reveal had basically built on top of the greater goal and moved us even more towards an even more hopeful chance of defeating Kaido. Like for instance with Kawamatsu and pretty much Hiyori reuniting in this episode. On face value, it isn't anything too spectacular or eventful, I suppose. Like we pretty much knew that both of those characters would eventually find each other again. But by extension of Gyukimaru from Gyukimaru recognizing Kawamatsu, you can definitely tell there's a history there, and that whatever the connection is, it's definitely clearly more than pretty much it. It review just from Yukimaru just tearing up at the sight of Kawamatsu. You can tell there's a lot more to Yukimaru's whole. There's a lot more there's a lot more to Kikimaru's whole weapons robbery than just making sure criminals don't wield weapons. If in fact the a lot of if in fact if you pretty much stay for the preview, we pretty much get the reveal that pretty much that Yukimaru isn't even human. Pretty much like there's a connection there for sure, and in of course and that whatever Gyukimaru is doing, it was pretty much, and whatever Gyukimaru is doing, whatever his intent was with collecting weapons, it was in order to help the rebellion and Kawamatsu by extension. You can definitely tell there's a little bit of there's definitely a reason of loyalty behind what he did. Now the other reunion the other reunion that did this as well was basically Hyogoro and was basically Hyogoro and his reunion with the other with the other like with regional with the regional Yakuza lords, which just with the weapon just pretty much like with the reunion of Yukimaru now and the possibility of what he's doing. This reunion adds more to the growth of the rebellion's size and manpower. So now on top of the 300 people that they've gotten as allies, of course, and when you add that on top of the on top on from top of the French Yakuza lords now, you're gonna have a whole fucking like insane army at your disposal now, and now and now the only thing that needs to happen is that we're going to need weapons in order to match the supply of these vast amounts of people who's and on top of that but of course this isn't even the end, because there's someone else also waiting in the wings to strike. And even though it was played up for comedy, I like how the 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 yeah how the how the Yakuza attacking Luffy for calling Yogoro old man is one of those times where his big mouth actually got him into trouble. Like, I kind of like that. Um, of course, we have to talk about Kawamatsu in this episode and what comes with Hiyori's reveal of why she left. And it's the interesting thing with Hiyori's reveal of why she left Kawamatsu behind and whatnot is that there is an argument to be made that you could say that Hiyori is indirectly responsible for Kawamatsu's capture. But there's two things that can't be denied either: Kawamatsu's loyalty and Hiyori's kindness. All Hiyori wanted to do by leaving was just return the favor for the vast amounts of help that Kawamatsu had given her up to that point. But Kawamatsu, on the other hand, he just wanted to protect her at all costs, no matter what happened to her. But in the end, that dedication on both sides is what also landed him in prison, because he couldn't think of anything else other than making sure that Hori was safe. And in that sense, it really shows just how much Hiyori and Kawamatsu depend on each other and needed each other to survive. Because because the relationship between Hiyori and Kawamatsu is one of balance. They pretty much kept each other from doing anything absolutely crazy, even if they weren't aware of how much they needed each other. And really, if they had just stayed together to begin with, then maybe they wouldn't have been separated for so long. But on the flip side of that, if they didn't get separated, then Hiyori probably wouldn't have reunited with an equally important ally that is about to flip the tables on everything. Now, I will admit, I think the biggest problem I have with the episode is that by the end, we didn't really get too far into the reveal of who Yukimaru is and why he was actually gathering weapons. But I do realize, again, why they didn't touch on that, because they wanted to leave it all for next week's episode. But I think this episode could have touched on it more than just flashbacks before jumping into the full-on backstory. Or at minimum, I think one thing that this episode could have really done is at least touch on the prologue material of them following Yukimaru to pretty much wherever he's retreated to. I think they could have done that at the very least. But so that would also mean cutting down on some of that other material, maybe not as focused as much on the prison mine or something like that. But yeah, so it's one of those things where I don't mind the fact that they touched on what they did with this episode, but there are certain things that I think where they could have cut down on some parts of the episode and punch up others. Again, I feel just kind of giving it an extra little bit of time to that ending in order to give a little more emphasis on who Yukimaru is, I think would have helped a little bit more. With that being said, we definitely have to talk about that clash at the beginning of the episode between Kaido and Big Mom, because on top of the usual fact that the art and animation was insane, this little skirmish also gives us a very small tease at just how powerful these two really are. And if it's any indication, then yeah, there's definitely still going to be some problems ahead. Even if the Straw Hats and the Samurai collectively throw everything they've got at Kaido, it's one of those things where in order to really defeat Kaido, you almost need to really kind of play dirty and find weak spots he has and exploit them. But at the same time, it's not going to be easier either. And Luffy is going to have to, he's going to have to be very precise even if it just comes down to a Luffy versus Kaido brawl like usual. Luffy's going to be very precise with every single attack he does. Otherwise, one little slip up is just going to land him on the receiving end of Kaido's club again. Another from Thunder Bagua. So yeah. It's a little bit of hope, but not looking good either. On the flip side of that, I love how Tama used her power on Babanuki in order to completely con Queen into thinking everything was a-okay at the prison mine. And a scene that is largely not wouldn't think is worth mentioning, but I found it hilarious. And also the fact that her powers we established that her powers can work on Devil Fruit users, specifically Zone Devil Fruit users or Smile users, whatever. This will definitely be useful in turning the tide in this battle. The question of whether to what degree it'll work and if it might work on Kaido is another question entirely. I think it'll work with a lot of Kaido's army, but in terms of whether or not it'll work on Kaido I have my doubts considering how big the guy is. In order for those little dumplings to work, you need at least 100 or 200. You need to feed him at least 100 or 200 in order for that to work. But even knowing of this, Caribou's little Caribou's little rant or pretty much mocking of the Beast Pirates, uh, and about them possibly overwhelming the enemy makes me realize the pretty much precursor and reality of what's actually to come, and how I kick myself now for not pretty much seeing it sooner when I read in the manga. Like, especially with things going so well, I've learned that when it comes to One Piece, when it's one of those things where when things look like they're pretty much going peachy perfect, or if things are going so well, usually the series tends to throw another hook into you. And yeah, the when it came to Caribou's little rant, that made me realize, oh yeah, it reminded me of what's about to happen. And oh boy. So, but yeah, guys, that's all I got for my review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Crunchyroll. Death Knight of Enemy, signing off. Later, guys.